Alright guys, I'm just gonna do it. For the first time on this channel, I'm going to talk about the theory of a second booster pass being on the way. Originally, this speculation started because Wave 4's track graphics slightly changed to words that were more open-ended. Since then, I've seen a whole lot of copium, but the thing is, there could be some validity to thinking that it could happen. Namely for the people that say another expansion would only be like 24 tracks. Tour doesn't even have 48 courses remaining after the current booster pass is accounted for, counting leaks. They would have to remain pretty busy through 2024 for that to happen. But over 3 years into the life of Mario Kart Tour, it almost feels like the amount of new courses is just accelerating. At first, the game just felt like a bunch of MK7 retro tracks, but as it has aged, a large amount of first-time retro courses have surprisingly been remade. But I think we were all expecting the end at some point. It only makes sense really, the booster course pass appears to be the perfect way to preserve tour content in the long run, and a lot of remade courses just feel like slam dunks. The recent Mushroom Bridge and SNES Bowser Castle 3 remakes just make total sense for the booster pass, but the new tour introduced 2 new remade courses that make no sense at all, that being Wii Daisy Circuit and GBA Peach Circuit. It has almost turned into an expectation now that new tour courses featuring crazy redesigns would be finding their way into Deluxe, because that's just been happening a lot. But it now feels that all the new tour content and leaks are actually outpacing the amount of content that even the booster pass could contain. If the goal of the DLC was to preserve Tour's redesigns, the numbers aren't adding up to show it. And I think that Nintendo's okay with that. Really, it is the city tracks and Tour originals that most need archiving after all, and all of them feel primed to return in the booster pass anyway. But of course, me being me, I want to look at the currently snubbed retro courses from Tour, and this list contains even data mine courses, because after Mushroom Bridge, none of them seem to fit the current puzzle anymore for the first 6 waves. A few assumptions will be made as well on this list on which courses are set to make our current 48, but this leaves me with the following list of tracks that I think are going to be snubbed. I'm not going to read them off one by one, but you can see them all on screen right now. But there's a lot of caveats here as well, because not only are there a lot of repeated course themes here, but I didn't even include the SNES tracks or the GBA Bowser Castle levels. If I were to include those, that brings our selection up to about 40 courses. And additionally speaking, I think this list contains a whole lot of mid, and mid is not how you do DLC. Why would I separate the SNES courses though? Well, it has to do with the formula they've given us for the booster pass up to this point, and the fact that they've been rightfully less confident in their SNES courses to begin with. The amount of tour cities is starting to dry up finally, but one thing they have not dove into whatsoever for the booster pass are the RMX courses. For those not in the know, RMX courses, or remix courses, are new takes on the 8 track types from Super Mario Kart. These courses share assets and music with the SNES courses, and even though I don't think that necessarily makes for a good course, I think they are 1, typically better than their SNES counterparts, and 2, effectively Tour originals. The second point is interesting because like the cities and tracks like Ninja Hideaway without entrance to the booster pass, there would be no way to preserve these remix tracks indefinitely. So my thought is that these courses could actually fill the role that the city courses have done in the booster pass up to this point, and even act as a way to make up for the justifiably low amount of SNES courses in the game without having to actually add them. Is there any credibility to this theory? Well, maybe. This is because the original banner leak actually had RMX Mario Circuit 1 on it, as well as another Mario Circuit track on it as well. MC1 looks like a placeholder that was changed to be Mario Circuit 3 in the end, and if anything, it just feels like they were unconfident in what SNES courses they were going to take. Bowser Castle 3 likely being the other SNES course in the past makes sense to me, because RMX Bowser Castle 1 actually took assets from the GBA courses instead. Perhaps the plan is to bring back an actual SNES BC, to bring back a reasonable number of SNES courses in the original booster pass, while not interfering with the RMX track types. Technically speaking, if this was their plan, one of the original 3 Bowser Castle levels are the only options they really have for Wave 5, since the other SMK track types don't have GBA counterparts. You'd then have the following options to start your cups in additional waves. I think this would take up 8 slots and about 6 cups, with Choco Island and Rainbow Roads being cup enders that act as sector tracks connecting both variants. Keep in mind also, RMX Koopa Beach has not been made yet. This would leave 16 courses from the list above to fill the cracks, and this could also include courses that haven't been data mined yet or additional originals. Originals do feel unlikely though, as they are already a bit behind on them for the actually real and confirmed booster pass. But to start, let's categorize these tracks based on fit, because to me, the obvious inclusions are the ones that are most unique, especially ones consisting of noticeable redesigns in Tour. This would be courses not sharing music and themes with others on the list, or sharing that stuff with tracks that are already in Deluxe. So if you were to add all of these courses, we've already accounted 12 of the 16 we need right now, so let's go through the others real quick. Starting off with N64 to Luigi Raceway and Mario Raceway, both of these courses would likely feel redundant with Royal Raceway already in the game, so while I think Mario Raceway is a classic, I don't really see it happening. GBA Peach Circuit and Luigi Circuit, they are a bit more interesting. The Peach Circuit redesign really does give me some Mario Kart 8 vibes, and Luigi Circuit is pretty interesting for a circuit track. Putting Luigi Circuit in the game and giving it the same remix as GBA Mario Circuit would be very awkward in my opinion though. Like, more awkward than Waluigi Pinball not getting its own remix. GBA Lakeside Park is really interesting also. Riverside is in the game already, but for whatever reason, they feel like they could, and maybe should, coexist. Lakeside feels like a big brother with a much different remix of the music rather than just another circuit that has the same theme. To me, these 3 GBA courses all feel individually unlikely, but the odds of seeing one seems pretty high. So if I had to guess, it is probably Lakeside Park that gets the nod due to them not knowing what to do with the circuit music in Mario Kart 8. GCN Dino Dino Jungle, so while the music is shared with DK Mountain, both are pretty popular courses, but mainly, there's not really any other GameCube course option that you would have for these last 3 waves. I think unless other GCN courses get data mined, both would be in the game with a second booster pass. There's just not any other options but to include both. DSDK Pass, it feels like this one is not going to happen because they already took a snowy DK course recently already, even if it'd be pretty fun in my opinion. Wii Moon U Highway, my gut says no on this one because there have already been traffic courses selected ahead of it, but logically it still does make sense. Shroom Ridge and Mushroom Bridge are daytime courses and they could all be spaced apart by 4 waves. 3DS Daisy Hills, so here's the thing. I've selected not just a lot of 3DS courses already, but I believe the 2 other Daisy tracks will be out around this time as well, and this is the least popular one, so I think they would pass on this one. 3DS Cheep Cheep Lagoon, I really think this course is very mid, and with Cheep Cheep Island getting the nod here, and Cheep Cheep Beach already in the game, it feels hard to envision that they would want to bring this one back, considering there's so many 3DS courses I've selected already. So at this point, I have 15 retro courses and just need one more. The first thought for me is that these hypothetical 3 additional waves have only one GameCube course up to this point, and it's going to be a track that shares theme with a recently released one from the original Booster Pass. So the last course, in my opinion, should probably be another GameCube course. Yet, it's hard to think of a good fit. The easy way out would be to delete Lakeside Park and Moonview Highway and just bring in GBA, GCN, and DS Rainbow Road, but I think this would make the future of retro Rainbow Roads weird, and I haven't really seen any evidence that this would be happening. This would be a very well-kept secret if Nintendo went this route. If you want to go with just GameCube courses though, I feel like bringing back just GCN Rainbow Road would feel very weird without the other 2 at this point. So the only other course that would make any sense as such would be GCN Bowser's Castle, which would conflict with the 3DS variant a little bit. Given the state of unused retro tracks, I feel like DS Bowser's Castle is probably going to need to be in the next game anyway, so it would make a lot of sense for the GCN variant to actually be used here. So if we were to replace the 3DS BC with the GCN one, we would have the following distribution of retro tracks of our 24, with all SNES representation coming from the RMX courses. This means for the final course, I believe it would make most sense to add one more N64 or DS track, but none of the current tour courses seem like great candidates for one reason or another. So let's explore the options that we would have from tracks that are not currently in tour. Moo Moo Farm shares a theme with Yoshi Valley, Wario Stadium shares a theme with Royal Raceway, and Sherbet Land shares a theme with Frap Snowland, and we already decided on a 3D Bowser's Castle. I don't see DK's Jungle Parkway making a lot of sense in a world where DK Jungle, DK Mountain, and Dino Dino Jungle are all in the same game, and as much as I'd want to add Banshee Boardwalk, it feels unlikely in a DLC that would be releasing GBA Boo Lake, RMX Ghost Valley 1, and even DS Luigi's Mansion. So all the N64 tracks don't feel like great fits. As for DS courses, there are 3 realistic options, which would be the remaining 3 retro tracks that were in Mario Kart Wii. This includes Yoshi Falls and Desert Hills, but these tracks would feel likely pretty underwhelming, and we have plenty of desert tracks already in the case of Desert Hills. To me, the option that easily makes the most sense as a fitting 16th course would be DS Delfino Square. As a popular Wii retro course, this just feels like exactly the type of course I'd want to bring back to keep the hype alive to the very end, and up to this point, I'm kinda surprised it hasn't been in tour yet, and if anything, it kinda just feels like it belongs. So here's a sample of the 24 courses I've selected up to this point. Are there flaws here? Well, maybe. A lot of templates are used excessively here, and by templates I mean, courses in the style of the RMX courses, your circuits. jungles or forests, ghost treks, castles, deserts, beaches, and snowlands. So I did my best to try to space them out to only have one per wave. I also wanted to keep it so there was only one track from each game per wave, not counting the remix courses, so it's a little bit of a puzzle, so I think this roughly fits together. Of course, there are always going to be some weird distinctions. Choco Island kind of feels like the desert templates, but doesn't really feel out of place with Dry Ruins in the first wave here. The next question is, should I have taken a GBA circuit over maybe Yoshi Desert? Is Daisy Circuit even a circuit? I don't really have the answers for this, but in the end, it doesn't really matter that much. These courses did feel like the ones that we'd most likely see if the booster pass were to somehow be continued. With this all being said though, do I expect it to happen? Well, not really. This is speculation, and I definitely don't see another 48 happening. But Nintendo has surprised us before, I will say that. But before I leave you, let me offer one thing. This will not be a two-parter, but there will be a connected episode, and it's going to be about the RMX courses. Of course, we talked about them a lot today and wrapped up talking about how Nintendo likes to be unpredictable. So perhaps I have another idea of how these courses might actually be used or even preserved in the future. But of course, that will be then. For now, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I'll see you all in that next one when it's ready.